Hey guys, it's Dave. Welcome back to the channel. Thank you so much everyone who hung out with me and watched Rocket Lab's latest launch. It was really fun to talk to you guys in real time as opposed to the delay of YouTube comments. Today, just a very casual video. I figured I'd jump on and just share my thoughts about the latest Rocket Lab developments, as well as the overall markets and my portfolio, what I've been doing, and just, whatever I feel like talking about, basically. It's kind of funny. Sometimes I plan out a whole script. I gather all sorts of video clips, mash them together, spend a ton of time editing the video, hours and hours, and the video absolutely bombs. And then other times I just jump on, talk about whatever I'm thinking at the time, no real planning, and the video does really well. So go figure. Anyway, this is one of those second ones where I'm just going to talk about what's on my mind, minimal editing and all that kind of stuff. And before we dive in, I hope you will consider hitting like and subscribe by the end of the video. It definitely really helps out with the channel. So, in terms of Rocket Lab, we have competitors for the small launch space dropping off left and right. We're re-manifesting a lot of launches over to Electron. They've received some launches from Virgin Orbit, from Astra, from a failed Japanese launcher just recently. They've signed all sorts of new contracts. They announced a bunch at this most recent earnings call, and then the Japanese one was actually just after the earnings call as well. So the backlog for Electron is looking very strong. It's looking like it can support the projected 20 launches we are expecting for next year. And we just had an acceleration on Electron's reuse program. So if you were watching the launches closely, you might have noticed that originally this most recent launch was supposed to be on a non-reusable Electron. Unfortunately, it had a few problems with one of these engines. Some sensor was giving off abnormal data, so they took it back to take a look at it, and instead of bringing it back out to the pad, they brought back out their next reusable rocket, which I guess was going to be the launch after that one. And the interesting thing about that is that it was using a reused Rutherford first stage engine for the first time ever. They have hot fired these before after recovering them from the ocean, but this was the first time a reused Rutherford engine was actually going to fly back up into space and back down again. And it was a complete success. It was extremely exciting to see a big step forward for Electron reusability, which is, of course, a big step forward for Electron margins and profitability for Rocket Lab as a whole. So extremely important for investors and the overall business, and it was a complete success. The rocket was recovered, so we can expect to see probably these engines flying again in the not-too-distant future. The company did say that this was kind of the last major step and test before they go on to fully reuse a booster, and that we can expect to see 9 engines reflying quite soon in the coming months. So definitely, I think before the end of the year, we should be seeing a reused first stage Electron making it to orbit, something that will be very exciting. So all this great news going on with the company, and what happens the day after that successful launch? Of course, the stock drops pretty big. I just go figure, I guess that's how it goes sometimes. I know if you've been in the stock long enough, you've probably seen a lot of sell-offs after successful launches. Seems to be a kind of buy the rumor, sell the news type thing maybe, or just, who knows? Sometimes stocks move quite weirdly over the short-term basis. But that's fine by me, because as long as the underlying company is performing well, I'm quite happy, and I'm very happy with all those things I just mentioned previously. So even if the stock did move down over the short term, and it did bounce back on the Friday, I'm really happy with these results. In terms of what I've been doing lately with my shares, mostly just holding on for the long term. We had a nice little bump just a little while ago. We basically almost had a double in a very short period of time. So I was thinking the stock was getting a little frothy, maybe due for a short-term pullback. That did indeed happen, although some people were a little unhappy about me saying that I thought over the short term it might have a pullback. Still very much a long-term bull, and I still plan to hold, 5 years plus, 10 years plus, who knows. We'll have to see how the company goes. Keep an eye on it, but definitely not selling anytime soon. Am I adding more shares? I don't have a ton of capital right now, so I might if it drops further, but in my opinion, and I guess we'll do a Dave's take here, what I think is going to happen is that we're going to sort of have a new range where I don't think we'll see those lows of, $3.90, $4 per share. Maybe we'll trade in the, $5, $5.50 to $7 range and trade sideways for a little while. And I've been thinking about this a lot lately, trying to think about, when I think the stock will really jump huge or launch, if you will, sustainably over the long term. And right now, I know this might be disappointing to some people, I'm kind of thinking like 2026. And the reasoning behind that is, well, first of all, next year for Electron, we're looking at 20 launches, which is great, but not quite the cadence we want for that full 50% gross margin number for Electron. That'll happen the year after that, so that would be 2025. Electron will really hit its stride and in the background be making tons of money. Likewise, Solero is doing a good job of completing all those legacy contracts that came with the company when they were acquired, and Rocket Lab had to honor them, but they were really low margin. We're burning through those pretty quick and getting to the newer contracts that are higher margin, more like 30+%, which is what we want to see on Solero, and the rest of Space Systems doing well as well. So that means the only thing weighing on the bottom line of the business, and by the way, I do think a lot of investors out there are only going to look at the price to earnings ratio and the overall profitability of the company. They may not understand, well, Electron super profitable, Space System super profitable. We're investing all this money in Neutron, so it's not profitable yet. And as a result, the overall business is not profitable yet. They won't look at that underlying and really understand what's going on there. They'll just say, oh, unprofitable business, I'm not interested. So for that reason, I think it may take until we start getting a decent number of Neutron launches and that investment starts paying off, as well as the R&D spend on Neutron starts dropping, and then it'll be like, oh my god, this holy crap moment where people start to realize, okay, this R&D spend is dropping, Neutron's paying off, we have Electron paying 50% gross margin, and Space Systems likewise, and then even a pipeline down the line of potentially owning their own space assets and doing space applications. So I'm planning to hold for sure way past 2026, and that's kind of my guess right now as to when the stock is really gonna, never look back and just launch. So, sorry for anyone who, is impatient, especially if you're still at a loss. If you bought it since that SPAC date, I can understand being impatient, wanting to get your money back. And I'm not saying it won't hit $10, before then, but I think once the price to earnings, once the profits are there and are undeniable, that's when the floor of the stock will be way higher and we won't just be looking at these peaks and come right back down. And then, of course, with the overall markets, it's anyone's guess what's going to happen. If there is a massive crash with that, then Rocket Lab will unfortunately get pulled down with it. That's just kind of how these things go. When everything's going great with the overall markets, all stocks, for the most part, seem to rise. When it's going poorly, even if the company you're invested in is doing well, all stocks tend to fall. Maybe just if it's really performing well, it'll fall less. So Jerome Powell talking about raising rates even further if needed, and inflation still too high, all that kind of thing could be a headwind for the next year or so, but definitely looking forward to the point when inflation is well under control and interest rates are dropping again instead of rising, because that'll be even better for businesses like Rocket Lab. So that's just my stream of consciousness for today. All my thoughts, not a lot of editing, no script. Let me know if you agree with what I said down below. If you think Rocket Lab is really going to get profitable sooner, if the stock is really going to perform well sooner. I'd be happy to be wrong. I would love it if the stock, shot up right now and stayed above $10, forever. But that's just Dave's prediction. Could be very wrong on the short term. That's why I hold these things long term. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, I hope you'll consider subscribing if you haven't already. And I hope you guys have a great weekend. I'll see you next time. Bye for now.